We generally save the last spot for the smartest thought leader to come and wrap the show for us. And it's our privilege to have Naskah Zada, host and producer of Zada Show, as our last guest. Naskah is the host and producer of Zada Show, which is a TV presentation featuring Middle East experts, as well as voices of ordinary people like Ray and I, affected by culture, religion, political conflict in the region. The show is meant to include everyone of all religion in honest, in-depth discussions. We're going to talk to Naskah about different countries and emerging technology startups, and really learn about the culture of Middle East. I mean, I was born in Iran, so I welcome this conversation. You can follow Naskah on Twitter at NASKAHZADA. Welcome, Naskah, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great introduction. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Hey, happy Friday. And you're calling in from where?
Friday. You made it.
Yeah, happy Friday. And you're calling in from where? So,
Washington, D.C. area.
Awesome. Live from Washington, D.C. And I've bumped into you many, many times where you've actually set me up for shows. And now we're going to turn the tables on you and ask you some questions. But more importantly, actually, we're trying to figure out what's going on, what's hot, what's happening on the Middle East. You've got this brand new show. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on and what inspired you to start the show.
So I'm doing this show called Zada, which I'm covering Middle Eastern topics. Also East Asian, including those countries, talk about religion, culture. You see so much fake news out there especially about the Middle East. Like the last segment you guys ended on fake news. Sometimes you don't know what's the real news or what's the fake news, and you just follow certain people on Twitter or social media, and then you get confused. Hopefully on Zada, we will be telling and checking some facts and bringing some experts and voices of ordinary people to tell us about the topics that we need to find solutions to. As we know, Middle East going through some rough times. You're talking about Iran nuclear deal or Trump's policies in the Middle East or US foreign policy in the Middle East, and you have some other great news that we're going to talk about it today with you guys when it comes to technology and high tech in the Middle East that's completely underreported, I think.
Right, absolutely. I just read an article from World Economic Forum writing about startups and technology growth in the Middle East. And the context of the story was that the success of startups in the Middle East can determine the whole region's success in the future. They referenced and highlighted one particular startup, the ride-hailing app, Careem, and that it has created over 500,000 jobs in the Middle East. And it's now currently training female drivers in Saudi Arabia in terms of anticipating the adoption and growth and usage of the app. Can you talk to us about, you're a young entrepreneur in the Middle East. First, what's your perception of the US? And two, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs in the Middle East in terms of the impact they could have building great companies and really leveraging technology to not only grow themselves, but the communities that they serve?
Well, before I go to talk about what I think, I want now talk about how you mentioned female entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurism in Middle East is increasing, which is not talked about the mainstream media because we're really interested in the wars and how the wars funded other than technology and how those startups in the Middle East by young people, and I'll go to mentioning how female entrepreneurs on the rise in the Middle East that need to be really paid attention to. It's something positive, it's something need to be reported. Having said that, according to The Economist, had a report recently that 25% of startups in the Middle East are females. That's compared to 7%. Yes, that's compared to 17% in the United States. Now that's according to The Economist, which is something normally we talk about, I'm a female from Middle East, and talk about, Middle Eastern women. We always see in the mainstream media, they're like abused and they don't have a lot of rights. And a lot of times people focus on Saudi Arabia, women don't know how to drive, but Saudi Arabia having a lot of reforms recently regarding women too. But entrepreneurship and startups, especially females, when it comes to, it's very interesting, we both tech guys, when it comes to technology, females in the Middle East, they feel like they have no limit and there's no gender gap when it comes to that. They have this opportunity, they can start anything and then they can do it, which is absolutely something amazing and positive going on when it comes to startups and that region.
And you spend a lot of time, talking through these issues, interviewing lots of folks. What's happening in the tech scene in the Middle East? How's it evolving? What's changing? What have you seen over the last 3 to 5 years?
Okay. I feel like it's evolving very nicely, but you talk about Middle East, you have UAE, Gulf countries that absolutely into evolving, and great companies going there and doing business in those countries. And then you have Israel completely having its own technology, a system that it's been working great. And then you have other regions other countries in the region that they're not doing so great. It's unfortunate because of war, but like it's getting there. I was just reading a report on Egypt, how ever since last couple years, since 2016, a lot of startups in Egypt, happening, and it's a lot of it when it comes to it's high-tech startups, and as a lot of them from young people, because majority of Middle Eastern population, they're under 30, so they're very young, they're very tech savvy, they're into fashion, technology, they're into fast cars, and they're even into not just that. We see more change. For example, Saudi Arabia got into solar system and they want to invest in that and not just technology, and they bring in a job. And then you have UAE having so many companies that investing in new tech when it comes to the region. And also the third country is Egypt, surprisingly having, new IT and technology, starting, new companies to bring more jobs. And you have to know, Ray, that a lot of those companies, when they start, and not just they're going to bring new technologies in the region, which seems like the young population in that region very interested in new technologies, but they also bring jobs and they improve the economy, which it's much needed in that region.
Yeah, what I've been reading about trends in the Middle East, one, incumbent companies are more anxious than ever to partner with startups. Amazon a year ago spent $580 million purchasing Scoop and Souk, and Goldman Sachs said it was one of the most strategic, biggest ever M&A activity in the Middle East. So the e-commerce space is really super active in the Middle East. Also, some of these startups are influencing government policy making. So there's quite a bit of influence with some of these multi-million approaching, unicorn status startups. So there's definitely an incredible amount of activity happening. And it's not just Dubai. A lot of times when I talk about technology in Middle East, people naturally gravitate to, like the $2 billion mall that Dubai is building. That's going to be the most technologically advanced mall in the world, as an example. But what advice do you have, again, to entrepreneurs who are looking to, build great companies? Is there a story you can share, or maybe a different question? What's the misconception? What's the biggest misconception when it comes to how folks in America think about entrepreneurship and business in Middle East? You just taught us about how certainly the women entrepreneurs are crushing it, 2 times more so than US, which is amazing. That I didn't know that stat. So are there other misconceptions that we have in terms of that great work that's happening in the Middle East?
Well, with some of them, the ones like there's not a lot of female entrepreneurs, which is absolutely, they've been, on the rise and they want to start business. And, so, I mean, in terms of advice, I think there's they're already doing it. Like the percentage speak itself, like females and younger people, they feel like the time, especially when it comes to technology, to start up and emerge to the global market and have influence and represent Middle East, not just as region it's been torn by wars and conflict, but also by, they do this. And the fact is that they feel like they can do this is huge. My advice, just keep doing it. Like the percentage for females, it's great. Percentage of like companies starting in that region, it's been nice. And also countries start to start new laws or regulations, or making for younger and young entrepreneurs to start a business. And one of the recent ones was in Dubai. They started doing bankruptcy policies, and they also started doing, issuing visas and changing that, so more younger people from the region come to Dubai or start business around the region. So this has all been happening. I'm glad you mentioned, I meant to mention Souk.com and Amazon. It was the biggest deal last year. It happened in the region. And you have to know Souk.com was founded by a Syrian refugee which amazingly doing so well. And Souk.com was doing very well even before Amazon.com. So now they're like joining the power. So, I mean, who knows how many more jobs they will create. They already created so many jobs that will advance, the economy and younger, and will encourage like companies like that, not just this company. There's many, many more companies starting recently. They will encourage younger people or, entrepreneurs that, hey, this is successful. It's not just gonna end up not being, successful because of what they've been told, the stories from the social media and mainstream media that, you cannot have successful businesses in the Middle East except for Dubai or Israel or certain countries. So the stories about that is changing, it's changing. There's great, I wish we had more time to talk about, there's like a couple great companies starting in Egypt and Morocco, which lots of people, when you mention Egypt, all they think about is war and Tahrir Square and people shouting and being on streets, and not thinking about entrepreneur and starting businesses in that country. But Egyptians just taking some kind of lead in this new high-tech technology, and people, majority people, it's interesting, coming from, they're from the region originally, but they studied elsewhere in the West especially, and they go back to their home countries. They're like, we're gonna change this, we're gonna have high-tech companies, we're gonna improve the economy, and then we're gonna prove everyone else hopefully wrong that their perception about the Middle East.
That's very cool. If you want to learn more, Forbes just published 100 most successful startups in the Middle East. And there's just amazing range of countries and capabilities. So it's a great, I encourage you to.
It's a great list. And I think, Naskah, what you're telling us here is that there's a public perception that we see because of the media and the news that we're in the US. And there's the reality on the ground of these untold stories where entrepreneurship is happening, tech is thriving in different regions. The countries that we think we have a perception because our news cycle only shows one facet of the country. There's a lot of richness that's happening that we may be missing. When you tell those stories and when you talk to those individuals, what are their aspirations? What do people have in terms of getting their startup out there? Do they have aspirations of a global ambition? Are they just looking at solving the particular problem that's at hand in their region? Or do they see partnerships that occur over time?
Well, majority of the entrepreneurs, like, I don't know, if when they start a company, it was something that they were passionate about. Like, I hear stories of like, oh, I just wanted to solve a small problem in my community. Normally, I don't know, you guys tell me, because I'm not into building companies or IT or entrepreneurism as much as you guys, but it started with small idea that you want to improve community, right? And then it grows. I think it was the same story about Kareem.com. It started as of like, I want to solve this problem in this community, but then the demand for it was so huge, then they had to come up with more solutions and make it more regional and global eventually. So, you know, you see that a lot of like stories, like I started like this, I studied this, and then I went back to homeland and I saw this problem and I wanted a solution for it. And then you go from there. And I think this is the best way to start anything, because if you want to find solution for a community, then, you know, you gather the community around that, and then you can have a better product in general.
That's awesome.
So how do ordinary people pitch their stories to you? How does somebody get on the Zada Show? how can people find you?
So I mean, I've been in media for the last 10, 12 years, that doing interviews, experts, and you know, people contact me, they're like, hey, do you want to interview me? And I'm like, well, I don't have a show. And that's how it started, which was very interesting. I know lots of experts around DC and globally. And then when I talk to them, and then they're like, oh, you should have a show. They gave me the idea. They're like, you should interview me. And I'm like, I don't have any show. Okay. So I you know, and then because I'm personally so focused on solutions, and I feel like really what we do in general, the mainstream media, like I said, I don't want to say it's awful and evil or anything like that. I mean, they're doing fightings and different problems they have to solve when they report, but I feel like really it's not genuine when it comes to reporting on Middle East. It's like not everybody's voice is included. It's normally biased, depends which station, you know, reporting on which story, if it's Israel or Iran nuclear deal. The politics of it, even the major mainstream medias, they get so caught up in that they don't actually give voice to those people who need to be heard in the region. And hopefully Zada gonna do that, and it's gonna be like an honest discussion that would bring everybody together, but that's for finding solutions.
I love that. We need more Zada shows. So yes, thank you so much for doing that.
This is awesome. We are live here with Naskah Zada. You can follow her on NASKAHZADA here on Disrupt TV Show, giving us some insights on tech in the Middle East, the culture, and what's next. And you want to catch her show as she ramps up on the Zada Show. So thanks a lot for being on Disrupt TV live from DC, and happy Friday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.